Welcome back to the Pilot Parent Podcast, the dedicated space for the adults of Ayla's wonderful world. I'm so glad you're joining us in the cockpit today. So I want you to imagine something for a second. You are in the deepest, most comfortable sleep of your entire life. You're perfectly warm, having this amazing dream, and then out of nowhere, someone dumps a literal bucket of freezing ice water directly over your head.
Oh, wow. That sounds awful.
Right. It's terrible. You jolt awake, your heart is just pounding out of your chest, you're gasping for air. And then, to make it worse, the person who threw the water starts yelling at you for being cranky.
Yeah, that's definitely not a great way to wake up.
No, it's not. But here's the wild part. Believe it or not, neurobiologically speaking, that is incredibly close to what you are doing to your child every single time you snatch a tablet out of their hands to enforce a screen time limit.
It really is. It's this profound, massive shock to their nervous system. And, I mean, that reaction, we all see the slamming doors, the screaming, the complete chaos that just ruins your whole afternoon, feels like a totally broken dynamic, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It feels like a punishment. You give them 30 minutes of something they love, and your reward is just a massive meltdown.
Exactly. But for this deep dive today, we are actually exploring a framework from our source material called the Smooth Landing Protocol. And it completely re-engineers how we approach these digital transitions, fully relying on the core philosophy of being a pilot parent.
Yes, and to really grasp this, to get why this works, we have to look under the hood at the neurobiology of what is actually happening during a screen time meltdown. Because, the moment you understand the actual mechanics of the crash, the behavior suddenly makes total sense.
It does. It goes from being infuriating to totally understandable.
Right. So think about a real professional commercial pilot. If you are a passenger and you're cruising comfortably at 30,000 feet, the pilot doesn't just, fly directly over the destination airport, suddenly cut the engines and shout back to the cabin, "We are here! Get out!"
Right. That would cause immediate catastrophic panic. The passengers would be bracing for impact, screaming. It would be chaos.
Pure chaos.
Instead, a real pilot initiates a gradual, very calculated, and highly predictable descent. They start lowering their altitude way before they ever even see the runway.
Exactly. Because the entire goal is to create a transition that is so smooth, the passengers barely even register when the wheels finally touch the tarmac.
And that's the perfect analogy, because forcing a child to instantly shut off a fast-paced video game is the exact neurological equivalent of cutting those airplane engines at high altitude.
Yeah.
When kids are locked into digital media, whether it's, Minecraft or Roblox or even just a fast-paced cartoon, their brains are being absolutely flooded with dopamine.
Which is the brain's main reward chemical.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's the pleasure neurotransmitter. So in a very literal biological sense, their neurochemistry is flying incredibly high. They are at 30,000 feet.
Okay, so that is the critical piece there, because when you suddenly unplug that device or grab the tablet, it doesn't just cause their dopamine to sort of drift back to a normal resting state.
No, not at all.
It causes an instantaneous drop to sub-baseline levels. The brain is suddenly completely starved of this highly stimulating chemical. It was just bathing it.
It's a total crash. And let's break down what sub-baseline actually means for, say, a 6-year-old's body.
Yeah, please do, because that sounds intense.
It is. Because if the brain interprets that sudden chemical deficit as a threat, which it does, we are talking about a massive cortisol spike.
Ah, the stress hormone.
Exactly. The stress hormone just floods their system. So in that moment, you aren't just dealing with a kid who is bummed out that the fun is over. You are dealing with a child in an active fight-or-flight state.
Wow. So the biological alarm bells are literally blaring in their head.
Blaring. And that is a crucial distinction for anyone listening right now. Because what we so often label as, willful misbehavior or stubborn defiance or just a tantrum is actually a neurological crash.
They aren't trying to give you a hard time.
No, they're really not. Their brain is literally panicking because the engines just cut out at high altitude.
Okay, so if we know we are fighting this powerful biological neurochemistry crash, then the classic strategy that we all use, shouting 5 minutes left from down the hall, that is obviously doomed to fail.
Oh, completely doomed.
I know it's incredibly tempting to rely on time limits. That is how our adult brains organize the day, right?
Yeah.
We look at the clock, we see that dinner is almost ready, and we announce a countdown.
Sure, it makes sense to us.
But saying you have 5 minutes has to be completely meaningless to a child in that hyper-stimulated state.
It's entirely abstract. Children already have a pretty tenuous grasp on time as it is.
Yeah.
But when they are fully absorbed in a digital world, they enter a state of absolute hyperfocus.
Right. Time distortion just takes over.
Exactly. 5 minutes to them could feel like 5 seconds, or it could feel like an hour. Telling a highly stimulated child they have 5 minutes is like telling that passenger at 30,000 feet, hey, just a heads up, the engines are going to cut out in exactly 5 minutes.
That doesn't help. That just makes it worse.
Right. It doesn't help them prepare for the transition at all. It just introduces this free-floating anxiety. They're just dreading the drop.
So our source material talks about this first tool, which they call the landing strip.
Yes, the landing strip.
So the goal here is to establish a predictable landing strip using concrete markers instead of abstract time. Meaning, if we can't use a clock on the wall, we have to use structural cues that already exist within the media itself.
Right. So tying the boundary to a narrative milestone.
Exactly. So you would say something like, when this episode of Bluey ends, our descent begins. Or finish this specific Mario Kart race, and then we land.
I love that. You are tying the transition to an event they can actually see and anticipate. You're giving them a visual and a narrative runway.
Yeah, so they can literally see the finish line approaching.
And that gives their brain the actual time it needs to subconsciously prepare for the dopamine reduction.
But, okay, let me push back for a second, because I've been thinking about the workaround for open-ended games.
Oh, like Minecraft or Roblox?
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of kids are playing these digital sandboxes where there are no episodes. There are no clear races or finish lines. There's no built-in endpoint.
That is a huge challenge for a lot of parents.
Right. So for those, the source material says you have to bring the concrete marker into the physical room. You place a visual timer, like an hourglass, or, those analog clocks with the red disc that physically shrinks as time ticks down.
Oh yeah, the time timers, those are great.
Yeah. You have to put that right next to the screen.
And the physical placement of that timer is actually the make or break detail here. It cannot just be a digital countdown on your phone sitting on the coffee table behind them.
Right, because they won't look at it.
Exactly. It must be directly in their line of sight, literally right next to the tablet or the monitor. If they have to physically turn their head away from the screen to check the time, they are not going to do it.
No way.
But if that shrinking red disc is right there in their peripheral vision, they can physically watch their altitude dropping.
Okay, but I have to pause here and just look at the reality of a busy Tuesday evening.
Let's hear it.
Let's say I set the perfect physical visual timer. The red disc is right there in their line of sight. But setting a timer isn't a magic bullet. Because if that hourglass runs out and I am still standing way over in the kitchen, aggressively stirring pasta, and I just yell over my shoulder, "Timer's up, turn it off!" the crash is still going to happen.
Oh, 100% it is.
The timer only works if my physical presence actually matches the descent, right?
You are describing the exact trap of what the source calls the air traffic controller.
Oh, that makes sense.
It is the most common mistake parents make. And look, we all do it when we are multitasking. You sit in the control tower, which is the kitchen, usually, and you shout commands at the airplane from a distance.
Turn that off right now. Time is up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that immediately creates a confrontational dynamic. You are suddenly an outside force. You're a hostile intruder, abruptly demanding they leave their world.
Right. You are the bucket of ice water.
Yes. So tool 2 is the alternative to that. It's called the co-pilot transition. It means leaving the control tower and actually getting into the cockpit with them.
Okay, so how do we do that?
You plan for the transition. 2 to 3 minutes before that visual timer runs out, or before that Mario Kart race finishes, you physically enter the child's space.
So no shouting from the hallway.
No shouting. And you don't grab the remote either. You don't stand over them with your hands on your hips tapping your foot. You actually sit down right next to them on the floor or the couch, and you become their co-pilot.
And this is where you deploy a very specific technique, right?
Yes. Once you are sitting next to them, you ask a genuinely curious question about what they are doing. Something like, "Oh, wow, what are you building there?" Or, "Who is winning this match?"
You show real interest in their digital environment.
Exactly. You are bridging their world and your world.
Which is fascinating because by making them explain the dirt house they are building in Minecraft, I am essentially forcing their prefrontal cortex back online, aren't I?
Yes. Oh, that is the brilliance of it. It's almost like a biological hack. When they are gaming, they are operating really heavily in the reward centers of the brain, the dopamine zones.
Right, the primitive brain.
But when you ask them to explain their strategy or to describe what they just built, they have to pause that pure dopamine reaction organize their thoughts, and formulate a logical answer.
So you are literally shifting the blood flow back to the rational part of their brain.
You really are. It builds a bridge between their virtual reality and the physical room.
I love that. But okay, I have to laugh because as great as that sounds, it feels incredibly difficult to execute in the moment.
Oh, it is. It's so hard.
Right, because if I am stressed out, the dog is barking, dinner is boiling over, the absolute last thing I want to do is sit down on the rug and pretend to be fascinated by a digital block of dirt.
Right. Tell me more about this pixelated cow.
Exactly. Faking genuine curiosity when your internal monologue is just screaming, just turn it off so we can eat. I mean, that takes some serious acting skills.
It takes immense self-regulation on the parent's part. It really does. But think about what you are actually investing in here. You aren't caring about the dirt house. You are caring about regulating their nervous system.
That's a great reframe.
Taking those 2 minutes to step into their world, that is what lowers the landing gear. It totally changes your role from an adversary ending their fun to an ally who is just transitioning with them.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so let's say we do it. The prefrontal cortex is back online. We have successfully co-piloted them down to the runway. The narrative marker is hit or the timer runs out.
The descent is complete.
Right. And then the screen goes black. But now there is a terrifying silence in the house.
The dreaded silence.
Yes, we've taken away this highly stimulating digital world, and now they were just sitting on the couch. What happens in that silence?
Well, the source material calls that silence the danger zone. It is a post-screen void. And the brain absolutely abhors the sudden emptiness that follows high dopamine activities. If there's nothing attractive or engaging or even just clear waiting for them in the physical world, they're going to look at that black screen and fight tooth and nail to get the dopamine back.
Ah, so they will negotiate, beg, or just melt down completely to return to the virtual world.
Exactly. Because the void is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we have to give them a destination before they ever even hit the tarmac. We need a next flight plan. That's tool 3.
Okay, so we don't just land the plane and leave them sitting on the runway.
No, you never wait for the blackout to figure out what happens next. The strategy here is to pre-announce a very clear, low-stress next step while the screen is still on.
So ideally, you do this while you are doing that co-pilot transition.
Yes, and the key is that this next step really needs to involve physical or sensory engagement to help process that lingering mental energy.
Some of the scripts the source provides for this are actually really creative. Things like, as soon as we touch down and the tablet goes to sleep, we are heading to the kitchen to mix the pancake batter.
Right, I love that one.
Or, once the TV is off, we are jumping like giant frogs to the backyard to check on the garden. So you are basically replacing digital stimulation with physical movement.
Notice how those examples give the body something to actually do. The nervous system is totally revved up from the game, and physical movement helps dissipate that energy safely.
I do want to push back on the practicality of that, though.
Sure, go for it.
Mixing pancake batter or checking the garden sounds lovely for like a lazy Sunday morning.
It does.
But what if it's a frantic Thursday morning, we're running late, and the next flight plan absolutely has to be just brushing their teeth or putting on their shoes? I can't always orchestrate a messy, fun baking activity just to turn off Paw Patrol.
And you shouldn't have to. That is the reality of daily life. The good news is the next step doesn't have to be a party.
Okay, phew.
The crucial element isn't the activity itself. It is the physical framing of the activity. You can make the most mundane chore feel like a sensory transition.
How do you do that with brushing teeth?
Well, instead of commanding, turn off the TV so we can brush your teeth, which just sounds like a rigid chore, you frame it physically. You say, once the tablet goes to sleep, we are going to march like heavy elephants all the way to the bathroom to find your toothbrush.
Oh, I see.
Or, as soon as we touch down, we're going to see who can bear crawl to the minivan the fastest.
That's brilliant. So you are giving the brain a bridge to walk across, even if it's just a bridge to the car seat.
Yes, exactly.
You are filling the void with connection and movement rather than just a demand for compliance.
You are honoring the fact that their body literally needs to move to process the transition.
Okay, let's be completely honest, though.
Always.
Even if you execute every single step of this perfectly, you set the visual landing strip, you sit down and deliver like an Oscar-worthy performance as the most interested co-pilot in the world.
You nail it.
You have a brilliant next flight plan involving elephant marching,
Sounds perfect.
but turbulence is still going to happen sometimes.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
screen goes off and they still burst into tears. So how do we hold the line in those moments without destroying the connection we just worked so incredibly hard to build?
And that brings us to the core philosophy that underpins all of this. This is section 5 of the deep dive. The guiding mantra here is firm on the airspace, soft on the reentry.
Firm on the airspace, soft on the reentry. I love that framing.
It's so helpful. It basically means the boundary itself is non-negotiable, the flight plan must be respected, and the tablet stays off.
The airspace is firm.
Yes. But, and this is where so many of us stumble as parents, the passenger's emotions about that boundary are fully validated. You are soft on the reentry. You do not punish them for feeling sad or angry that the fun is over.
Let's role play how that actually sounds in practice, because the language in the source material is very specific.
It is. Words really matter here.
If my child is upset the game is off, I shouldn't just say, I know it's hard, but screen time is over.
Right.
Because that word but just completely erases the empathy I'm trying to show.
It really does. It instantly invalidates their feeling. It tells them their frustration doesn't actually matter because the rule is more important.
Yeah.
The hack here is to try replacing but with and.
Okay, so it sounds more like, I know it's frustrating to turn off the game. It's really hard to stop when you're having so much fun. I get it.
Yeah.
And our screen time is finished for today. Let's put the tablet in its hanger together.
Perfect. Notice how different that feels.
It feels completely different.
Because saying and allows both realities to exist in the exact same space. Your child is allowed to be incredibly frustrated, and the tablet is still going away.
I think the tone of voice there is doing a lot of the heavy lifting too, honestly.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because if I am yelling that script from across the room, it's useless. But if I am speaking in a calm, low pitch, I am physically signaling safety to their nervous system.
You're showing them you aren't afraid of their big feelings.
Yeah. And reflecting on that whole idea of being firm on the airspace but soft on the reentry, I just find it incredibly empowering for you, the listener. It completely removes that crushing parental guilt.
It really does. Because you realize you aren't being a quote-unquote mean parent for enforcing the boundary.
Right.
And you aren't being a permissive parent for comforting them while they cry about it either. You are simply being the pilot.
You are the safe harbor. Managing screens isn't really about fighting a war against technology. It is about actively managing transitions.
That's the real mission.
By shifting our own role from a stressed-out air traffic controller who just arbitrarily cuts the power to a skilled co-pilot who guides a smooth descent, we preserve the relationship. And long-term, we are modeling how they can eventually regulate their own nervous systems.
That is the ultimate destination.
Yeah.
We are giving them the actual neurological tools they will use for the rest of their lives.
It is a profound shift in perspective. And before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Well, as we were analyzing all these neurobiological mechanisms for the kids, I couldn't help but turn the mirror on myself.
Uh-oh.
Right. What if we, as adults, applied the smooth landing protocol to our own screen time?
Ouch. Yeah.
Think about your own habits tonight. Do you doom scroll in bed until the absolute last second, violently shut off your phone, drop it on the nightstand, and then lay there in the dark wondering why you can't fall asleep?
I feel personally attacked. But yes, we totally throw our own neurochemistry into a crash every single night.
We really do. We don't give ourselves a landing strip. We don't have a physical transition before sleep. We just cut the engines at 30,000 feet and expect our brains to instantly power down.
It's so true.
Maybe we need to start setting visual timers for ourselves. Maybe we need to read a physical book for 10 minutes to bridge the gap and replace the void. We spend so much energy trying to be the perfect pilot for our kids, but we need to remember to be our own co-pilots too.
Thank you for flying with us today on the Pilot Parent Podcast. Remember, check your instruments, fill the tank, and we'll see you in the next cockpit session for Ayla's Wonderful World. Over and out.